can't come to the phone right now. I'm listening to Party Talk Podcast.
Welcome to the Party Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Cooper Keimig, here with Chris Keimig. It's week 15. You know what that means? It's playoff time. How many leagues did you get into in the playoffs this year, Chris?
I'm only in 4 leagues and nailed them all.
Yep. I made 3 of my 4 leagues. I started 0-3 in one of my leagues and made a crazy comeback, but I just missed out on the playoffs. I needed somebody to lose, actually. But I think I went on a 5-game win streak to end the season. But my 3 other leagues, I made the playoffs. It was a close one in our keeper league, though. I needed Brett to win, and I think that was it. But yep, we pulled off a miracle. So
better send Rapple a present for Christmas.
Yeah. So anyways, like I said, week 15, it's fantasy playoffs for most leagues. And before we get into week 15 predictions, we'll review last week's week 14. It was just me last week, but Chris will go over some of his as well. So last week, my start of the week was David Montgomery. Unfortunately, only finished with 11.5 PPR points. It's all right. I was hoping for a little bit better. Just as everyone predicted, the Lions were trailing the Bears almost the whole game. So in a game where the Lions are losing, David Montgomery didn't get much work. Just a bad game script for him. I do expect him to finish off pretty strong, though. He didn't end up getting a touchdown, which you can kind of pencil him in for every week. So that's what only had him 11.5 PPR points. Who was your start of the week last week, Chris?
I had CeeDee Lamb of the Cowboys. 6 for 71 and an early touchdown in the game. They kind of went away from the throwing a little bit and just started running the ball. So the game flow didn't really match. But an average day, but I thought he'd do better.
I mean, that is pretty good for a wide receiver, though. That total. All right. I hate to talk about this one. Let's review our sleepers of the week last week. My sleeper was Josh Dobbs. I'd rather not talk about it. He had 4.6 PPR points. He's actually benched, and it wouldn't have really mattered in this one. It was a snooze fest of a game, 3-0. Finally, the Vikings scored 3 points to win the game. Terrible total. And I'm pretty sure I witnessed Josh Dobbs get another concussion again on one of his runs. And yeah, man, he doesn't look as good as he was early on in the season. So that's a bad call by me, but I didn't expect him to get benched against the Raiders. Who was your sleeper of the week, Chris?
Yeah, well, I listened to you and I picked up Dobbs, and thanks a lot, buddy. I had Jonathan Mingo of the Panthers. He did have the most targets on his team with 9, but it was only 2 for 22. That Panther team is just terrible. I'm staying away from anybody on the Panthers. I mean, if I gotta start a running back, maybe, but Chuba Hubbard's about it for me. But nah.
Yeah, the
bad week.
Panthers are still in the pits for you, huh? Talked about that a couple episodes ago. All right, let's take a look at the waiver wire. Who'd you have to pick up last week, Chris?
I had Noah Brown of the Texans. I thought that was a pretty sure thing. He's still out there looking for a reception. He didn't catch anything. It was a rainy day in New York, and it just didn't work out. I think he got hurt. I didn't watch the game, but Zach Wilson didn't have any problems throwing in that rain. So there's something going on, but CJ Stroud did get a concussion late in the game, but
it's
still
a pretty bad one too.
Noah Brown with the big goose egg.
Who's your other waiver wire pickup?
Elijah Moore, the Brownies. He was 3 for 42. Flacco, I think he went somewhere else. He got Njoku on a wide open shot, but Elijah Moore just didn't do much. I went more to Cooper, I think, that game.
Yeah, and Njoku had a huge game too, so he He hogged up a lot of those targets. My waiver wire pickup, my first one was Ezekiel Elliott, this 2016. He had 27 PPR points. He had 140 total yards, 7 catches, and a touchdown. Those are wide receiver stats. But, as long as Ramondre Stevenson is out, Zeke will be a league winner with that volume that he's getting. And my other pickup was Zay Jones. He finished with 7.9 PPR points on 5 catches. He had 14 targets, but he only had 29 yards. It's a pretty bad game for Trevor Lawrence. I think he had 3 interceptions. So let's just see what happens next week for Zay Jones. My pit of the week last week was Austin Eckler. Maybe he's back, or maybe he's only option now that Justin Herbert is unfortunately done for the year. Austin Eckler finished with 21 PPR points. The thing that changes, he's actually getting his targets now. He had 7 targets last week, and he's got some good matchups going forward. So I suppose he's worked his way out of the pits. Who's your pit of the week, Chris?
That was Austin Eckler. I think he got pissed because they said they were going to go to a committee.
Yep.
And they were going to go 3 deep. And he probably got pissed off at that again. So maybe stepped it up a bit. So that was good for him. I need him to get going. Picking on the Panthers again, Adam Thielen. He did all right. I mean, he was 5 for 74. But like I said, I'm not touching another Panther. I mean, I'm done with them.
Yeah. As far as Austin Eckler goes, I saw a clip of him on he does I think it's Yahoo podcast for fantasy. He's pretty involved. He's spoken about fantasy football a lot. And the guy he was doing the podcast with, they had him rank the top 4 running backs going into the playoffs. And he ranked himself number 4, and he said he's got to play better. And he did finish with 21 PPR points. So let's review.
Well, he should be healthy. He hasn't gained any yards this year, so
yeah. Let's take a look at our bets of the week last week. What was your bet of the week, Chris?
Well, I was going to bet on CeeDee Lamb, and I was looking at the odds, and I saw Deebo Samuel stand out. His odds were a lot better. So I was looking at the point spreads and over-unders, and I bet on Deebo to get 2 touchdowns. And so I cashed on that, and then I went on there. I took those winnings, and I put them on CeeDee Lamb, and he got that early touchdown, and I was all hyped up, and then what the hell? Over 3 quarters, nothing. So, but I did cash on my Deebo last week.
Yep. And then my bet of the week was Deontay Johnson, 39.5 receiving yards. I bet 1 unit on that. So as far as when the podcast came out, his line was 39.5. A little bit before the game, it went all the way up to 45 yards. That's 6+ yards that it went up. So, if you guys are listening in, could have got a big edge on that bet in it. Deontay Johnson did finish with 57 yards, so he beat that total by a lot. We move on to 2-0 on my last 2 bets, and this week we're going to try and make it 3-0. All right, it's week 15, fantasy playoff time. Let's talk about our start of the week. These are pretty important ones. We're coming down to the wire. Who's your start of the week, Chris?
Well, in honor of Jaden, I'm going with a kicker. I know Jaden, he follows those kickers pretty good. Brandon Butter Aubrey of the Cowboys. You say who? Oh, don't laugh. This guy is money, man. 60-yard field goal, 59-yard field goal, 45, and then another 50-yarder last game. It's just unreal. He's a 28-year-old rookie. He's probably the oldest rookie that's ever played football. He never played college football. He was a soccer player for Notre Dame. He's now 30 for 30 on field goals. 30 for 30. I mean, that's just unreal. The Vikings could have used him and won 6 or 7 playoff games with him. So, Brandon Butter Aubrey, my guy.
Do you have him in any leagues?
I picked him up in 3 of my 4 because kickers aren't no big deal, and I saw all the points the Cowboys were scoring, and I didn't know the story behind this guy. But I did trade him to your Cowboy fan because he was a big Cowboy fan and wanted Aubrey for. He was giving me like five. He's gonna give me like 5 of his guys. I said, no, I don't want 5 of your guys. Just give me your kicker, which was the guy for the Ravens. What's his name?
Justin Tucker.
Yeah, Justin Tucker. So, but yeah, this guy's awesome. He's worth the price of admission, I think.
Yeah, I got him in one league. Kind of somewhat related. It's one of the things that, a casual person who's playing fantasy doesn't really worry about. Like they'll draft a kicker and then they'll leave it. I have a top 3 kicker in all my leagues, and I mean, I got Brandon Aubrey in one. He finished with 23 points this week. He definitely won me one of my matchups this week. So always,
I bet you he
look at your
goes
kickers.
in around 12 next year.
Yeah.
But probably round 3 for the Cowboy fan that you play with. But still, he's gonna go early.
He took Deuce Vaughn in the 5th round in our draft. But all right, my start of the week, it's Bijan Robinson. The first game of the season, the Falcons played the Panthers. This is Bijan's first NFL game. Bijan finished with 20.3 PPR points. This week he plays them again, and he's been on a roll to finish off the year. The Panthers give up the most touchdowns to running backs and the 3rd most fantasy points per game to running backs. Just a smash spot for Robinson, and he's my start of the week. In honor of the playoffs, we're going to do a bench of the week. This is a guy you just can't start in the playoffs. Can't lose a week because of it. Who is your bench of the week, Chris?
I hate to say, but it's Kenneth Walker. 8 for 21 yards last week, 5.4 PPR points, 2.6 yards per carry. Splitting carries with Zach Charbonnet now. I just don't think he's fully healthy yet. And they do play the Eagles, and they've given up the 4th lowest fantasy points to running backs. You can throw on them, but they're kind of tough to run on. So I'm not I'm going to bench him this week, and hopefully I move on and I can get him in there because he got me to the playoffs. So I hate to give up on him, but he's on the bench right now for me.
And my bench of the week, it's going to be Calvin Ridley. He's been the definition of super boom or super bust this season. Although he's coming off a 13 target game, it was a game where Trevor Lawrence threw like 50 something times against the Browns. I just can't start Ridley this week. If I have some other options, I can't start him. He's got an awful matchup against the Ravens, who give up the 2nd least fantasy points per game to wide receivers. I know the Ravens kind of got cooked against the Rams, but I think that was just a one-time thing. For the first time last week, I saw Trevor Lawrence visibly upset with Ridley, and most of the interceptions that Trevor Lawrence threw were passes to Calvin Ridley. They're just not on the same page right now, and I just can't start him, so he's my bench of the week. Let's take a quick little look at the playoff waiver wire. These are going to be some of the more important ads this week. We had a lot of injuries. I would know. I lost my whole sleeper team this week. So I don't really want to talk about him, but I will. He's someone I'm going to be looking to add this week. Jake Browning, quarterback for the Bengals. He may be a league winner if he keeps playing this way. He's coming off back-to-back 23-plus PPR point weeks at the quarterback position. He's been using his legs a bit with 2 rushing touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. If you lost Herbert, like I did, or we're almost starting Will Levis, like me last week, I'd pick up Browning. He's only rostered in 29% of ESPN leagues. Another one who I know you're going to touch on, who I started this week, he led me to the playoffs, Joe Flacco. Those are some quarterbacks to pick up. Who you got on the waiver wire, Chris?
Well, while we're talking about quarterbacks, I got a couple here. A lot of quarterback injuries this last week. Stroud had that concussion. Herbert had that finger. So you can go with their backups, but I'm thinking about maybe Geno Smith or Drew Lock because they play the Eagles this week. and we know how easy they are to get passed on. You mentioned Joe Flacco. He's only rostered in 4% of the leagues. I think you even went out and bought a jersey of his, didn't you?
I probably should after that performance.
Maybe take
that
some
he
of
had
those
for me.
winnings and buy a little jersey or something.
Yeah, shout out to you. I was getting ready to start Will Levis, which I mean, at the end of the day, it would have worked out for me anyways, with that crazy game
Yeah.
last night. But Joe Flacco, what do you have? 3 touchdowns. That was a good call by you for
Yeah,
me to
I think I
start
got
him.
lucky with that one. I just said you can't start Flat or Levis
Yeah.
going into the playoffs. That's just a no-brainer. Another pickup. We told you weeks ago, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. Ty Chandler of the Vikings only rostered in 23% of the league still. Madison got injured, probably not coming back this week. You can take those pictures of KOC that he's got. You got to start Ty Chandler now. I just go out there and grab him. He had a decent week, but he's got full-time duty. Kenny Nwangwu might get a few runs in there, but Chandler's the man right now. And a couple, I mean, we don't go to defenses very often, but Chicago Bears defense. I can't believe I'm even saying this. Ever since they got Montez Sweat from the Commanders, I heard this today. They lead the league in turnovers, and that includes a bye week in there. I mean, that's how good they're playing. They crushed the Lions this week, and they have back-to-back 15-point fantasy weeks. That's pretty good for a defense.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a defense, grab them. Or you also grab the Vikings. They're number 7 on the league. So if they're out there, they're still out there because everybody's kind of streaming right now. Vikings, the last 2 games, they haven't given up a touchdown. I mean, when's the last team you've heard do that? That's pretty good. If we didn't have all those turnovers, the 12 points of the Bears, they probably want to give up probably 6, if that. So a couple teams if you're looking for a defense out there.
Yeah. Just want to touch on the Vikings defense as a Vikings fan. Man, I miss Kirk Cousins. The things we would be doing with Kirk Cousins this year, with this defense, the way they're playing. Oh, man. Anyways. All right. In spite of the holidays, we got a nice little segment. We're going to make our little list to Santa. Dear Santa, here's my note to you. Dear Santa, please leave me some milk and cookies to have while I enjoy my bye week in the Little Debbie Fantasy League. Oh, dear Santa, I'm free to hand out presents while I enjoy my other bye week in my other Quad City Annual Football Fantasy Bowl League. Dear Santa, please give me a healthy sleeper keeper team next year. I lost Justin Herbert, Ramondre Stevenson, Justin Jefferson, Jerome Ford, Alexander Madison, all in my win and get in playoff game this week. Please, Santa, just let my rosters meet their season averages so I should manage these playoffs. Thank you, Santa. I hope I'm on your nice list this year. Do you have a note to Santa, Chris?
Well, of course. I need as many presents as I can get. So my note to Santa is, Dear Santa, thank you very much for getting me into the fantasy football playoffs in all 4 leagues of mine. I know you've been watching me very close this year, and I hope you've noticed, I've cut down my watching of football on Sundays down to a mere 12 hours on Sunday now. I'm sure you also noticed how I was rooting for Dr. Fantasy to win on Monday night, rooting for Jalen Waddle to pile up those stats, even though my opponent had Jalen Waddle and came back and beat me where I lost by 10 points. I did that for you, Dr. Fantasy. So I've been very good. So my fantasy wish this year is to clear CJ Stroud of his concussion. I need a miracle because there's no way I can win with Josh Dobbs on my team as quarterback. And while you're at it, could you please look into getting Mark Andrews back? Thank you, Santa.
Thank you, Santa. All right, let's finish off this week 15 episode with our bets of the week. You got a spicy one, Chris. What is your bet of the week?
Mine's a gimme, man. It's a lock and load. Cooper Kupp, 2 touchdowns, against the Commanders. It's an automatic. Commanders suck. Sorry, Jaden.
Sorry, Jaden. All right, my bet of the week is going to be a 3-leg parlay for plus 100 odds. I'm going to be betting 1 unit on this. I already did. I'm going to go the Kansas City Chiefs money line over the Patriots. I'm going to go the Eagles money line over the Seattle Seahawks. And I'll do a alternate spread for the Lions plus 7.5 versus Denver. That's going to be my bet of the week. I'm going to be betting 1 unit. And yeah. Thank you, Santa. Please help my fantasy teams this week. Oh, wait, I'm on a bye in all my leagues. All right. Thank you, Santa. Thank you, all the viewers. We'll catch you next time.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.